You. So today we're going to get into Corporate Transparency Act. Really, if you've been following along in the news and everything in the accounting world, well, you're probably going to see this in emails and people is BOI, which is the beneficial ownership interest is what it's getting abbreviated as. But this beneficial ownership rules stem from the Corporate Transparency Act. So really, Corporate Transparency Act it's a whole big thing, but we are going to look at a specific section of it that everyone's talking about and is creating a notice really and creating a lot more reporting requirements than people probably thought would end up happening. And especially since we'll get into why and the reasons for it too. But yeah, as an introduction, my name is Nick. I'm a CPA and attorney here in Richmond, Virginia. I do a lot of new client emerging issue work for my firm, where anytime there's a new tax law, new business law that materially affects our clients, it's my job to kind of learn it, understand it, and then find out how we can make money off of it for our clients. This one here, I like saying we'd make money off of it, but I think it's one where we probably might have some issues. It'd be interesting to see, if you guys have an idea on how you're going to bill for the work, if you're going to do the work, versus, I think the time and effort that it takes. As we kind of go through this webinar today, I think that's one thing that we have to have in mind is what is the scope of the job that we're going to do. Now, part of that is really going to get distilled into a couple of discussions, right? I think first the issue is this a practice of law or is it not a practice of law? And depending on how you come out on that answer, you can either do it if you're an attorney, or if you're not an attorney, you can't do it. So that's one of the big things. I know around the industry, talking to malpractice carriers and all that fun stuff, a lot of their idea is, hey, no, you can't do this work unless you're an attorney. It's a practice of law issue. We can get into reasons why that is and everything a little bit later. But I know for me, the one that I care about the most, when I want to know if they practice the law or not, is definitely my malpractice. I'm going to trust them and know that, hey, if they tell me I can't do this work, it means it's not covered by my insurance. So we do want to make sure we have that come through, right? And I think that's the major issue. The second one, I think, when we kind of look at all this, we're going to be here for the next 100 minutes. And during that 100 minutes, talk a lot about different rules and different things that go into it. And definitely the penalties involved in it as well. I think when we boil everything down to it, our clients' expectations of what this is versus the amount of work that has to go into it is going to differ a lot. I think, when you just hear it and you hear people talk about it on the news, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I just have to write who owns this company and report it to FinCEN. But that's not the case. We'll get into why, but there's a lot of times where people who aren't the owners have to get reported as well. And that's knowing the company, asking the right questions, and doing proper due diligence to figure that out. So I think right there, that opens us up some level of exposure too if we do this work, just from if we get it right or wrong. And the penalties are pretty steep to get this incorrect. So we do want to make sure that we do get it correct. Now, when we come to all that, the amount of work it does, the amount of learning that comes with actually being able to file these, then the issue comes up is how much do we charge? What's our actual value for this? And honestly, if I were to do this work, I probably wouldn't take less than $2,000 to $3,000 per filing. That's just me. I think that's probably a good sweet spot to, make up for my risk, make up for my time, and all the stuff that goes into it. Now, people might say that's a lot. I know if I took that to a lot of my clients, said, yeah, we can do this, but it's going to cost you $2,000 or $3,000, they're probably going to say no. I think maybe client expectation for work like this is more around like 500, just from people I've talked to and what I've seen across the industry. And, I just can't wrap my head around that $500 for the amount of work that goes into it, and again, that penalty risk involved. So that's a determination that we're going to have to make, as we're sitting here on the cusp of 2024, that this whole process gets started of, is it work that we're going to do? What are we going to charge for it? And how is it going to get done? So